Hey guys, today we're looking at some ESCI British Paratroopers released in 1983. Now unfortunately I don't have the sprue or the box of these guys today because these were ones I purchased way back in about 97 or 98. So we just have to go with the unsprued figures and no packaging. But anyway, these are not to be confused with the ESCI Red Devils set, which were kind of a assembly set. Which were released a little bit before these guys, but at the same time they work well enough together, and that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment, is a kind of a mix and match project with various brands. So what have we got here? Well, we've got most of the figures in the standing position. I also have some of the prone ones. I'll show you them in a moment. One or two I have painted up, but I'll show you a full complement in the second part of the video. So basically at the end here we have a British paratrooper with his, looks like number 4 Lee Enfield rifle. Looks pretty good, nice pose. He has none of that netting or scrim on his helmet, which is nice to see a little bit of variance because some of the other figures do have. It's a good pose. In fairness, kind of a bit of animation to it, it's lifelike, and the detail on the uniform and that is fairly good. If we could just get a little bit of focus, I think we're okay there. Interestingly enough, the jacket is sort of tucked under the in between the legs and that, which when you're in the drop scenario that would be the case, but in kind of in combat, generally speaking, once you've landed, they tended to undo that. But anyway, next to him we have a guy advancing with the rifle across his chest. He has the netting on his helmet as well. It would have been nice to see a bayonet fixed on that, I think, maybe just for a little bit of extra added Arnhem Market Garden paratrooper ferocity, but that's what we got. Guy with the rifle shouldered in the firing position. Interestingly enough, the ESCI sculptor, whoever it was, kind of had a habit of doing that particular kind of pose. But if you've ever fired a rifle of that caliber, that's 303, so that's a fairly hefty round, you'd kind of lean into it a little bit more, and you get your head down and get a bit of a, what they call a cheek weld on the stock to get a better sight picture. But of course this guy could be depicting someone who's just peering kind of over the edge of his sights just to see what's coming down the line at him. But still a good pose and quite nice. Officer there looks quite cool actually. Various binoculars around the chest. He has a helmet on instead of the beret, which is nice to see. And he has what I suppose is supposed to be a Webley revolver in his hand, although it looks like a kind of an old Colt, the old Colt army pistol from the 1800s. But I presume it's supposed to represent the Webley, but not too bad there. This guy running with the Sten, again, kind of ESCI sometimes do these kind of weird poses where the body proportions and just basic shape looks a bit odd. I always find the running poses in ESCI a little bit weird, but still nice enough. There's good detail on it there. You can see the pouches and stuff. The Sten is well represented and just generally looks fairly okay. Couldn't really fault that. Beside, what we do is we'll take him out for a moment and we'll put in a guy throwing a grenade. Yeah, similar kind of situation. Not too bad though, in fairness. Could have been a little bit better, but nice detail. You can see the extra grenade on his belt there as well. Pouches are well displayed. Nice creasing and stuff on the jacket and that, so it looks pretty good. Facial expression or details are fairly good too, so can't really fault that. So we'll move this guy out of the way for a moment as well, and we'll put this guy into shot. Now, Sten Gunner again, he has a little bit of camouflage put into his helmet, which looks pretty cool. He has the Sten held slightly strangely, but a lot of people might think he has his hand kind of over the magazine and possibly ejection port. So that mightn't be the best way to fire that, although we could be stabilising it because now I've never fired a submachine gun. I've fired a lot of different type of rifles and that over the years, but a submachine gun I haven't, so there might be an issue with climb being represented there, where the muzzle would climb away once the weapon is in fully automatic mode. But you know, not a bad sculpt really, to be fair. It looks pretty nice. Nice detail again. The rears of the back of the figures there, pretty decent as well. Some of them have the backpack, as you can see with the rifleman there. Some of them don't. Officer's a little bit Spartan, but generally speaking, a nice little set of figures. You know, they'll paint up fairly well. There was also that I have this guy, the running chap here as well. I'll just get him in there. I'm not sure if I had him in or not. Just clear it away here a small bit. So yeah, nice figure again. Might have been nice to see bayonet fixed on that. Looks like a Liam Field SMLE, which is a slightly older variant, kind of going back almost to the First World War and before that, with the kind of more snub nose barrel at the end there, as opposed to the number 4, which has the barrel protruding a small little bit. But that's a nice representation nonetheless. Nice little bit of detail on the rear as well. So all in all, quite a nice figure. There was also, in the standing figures, there was a Bren gunner and a Sten gunner, and these are actually two of my favourite poses from the range. Now I have these painted up, because if I remember correctly, there was only 2 of the Bren gunner and 3, if I remember correctly, of the Sten. So those guys got painted up years ago for inclusion in a battalion I was putting together at that time. So I don't have unpainted versions of those at the moment. But as you can see, I kind of did a mediocre job really, but they're okay. In fairness, the webbing there is the wrong colour, but the colour scheme is basically that's which was represented on the back of the Revel box. The colours recommended there, so it was Revel colours and some Humbrol the same numbers that would match up used, if I remember correctly at the time, but I'm going back about 20-21 years ago for those. There was also a number of prone figures as included as well, which I'll just drop in there. There was also another standing figure, which was basically a guy who looked like he was maybe boarding, getting ready to board a plane or a glider, but I don't have him. He was the least animated of the bunch anyway. So he wasn't a great figure, I didn't think myself, but nice for a diorama and all the rest of it. But I just do not seem to have that guy at the moment. Now, what have we got here? Okay, so you have a guy lying down, slightly awkward pose, his elbows are off the ground, so that's not very realistic, but at the same time, the rifle is fairly detailed, the rest of the uniform is pretty good too. You have a Bren gunner here, not too bad, a little bit of detail loss in by the stock maybe, but he's also, his bipod is missing a leg there as well, but that doesn't matter, he's one of my spares anyway. He is kind of standard ESCI sort of a scenario. He's changing magazines. They seem to have done that a lot with particularly light machine guns, but not too bad. You can see the other side of him there, so he is missing the leg of the bipod. There was a guy crawling who for some reason is missing the end of his rifle, but that was my fault. That's not a box issue. Again, details nice enough, and again the variance of some of the guys having the scrim on the helmet and some not having it is kind of nice too. Who else is there? Oh, we have a Piat. A little bit malformed there, don't know if that was a box issue or not, I can't remember. Nice enough detail in fairness, looks pretty good. Can't really fault that. One minor issue, however, is that the Piat, of course, is depicted with 2 legs in a bipod format, where it was actually sort of a monopod, and unfortunately this one is a bit damaged, so I don't know what I'll do with that. I'll probably just try and fix it up, whatever, because I might be using it, I don't know, I haven't decided yet, but that's basically the Piat. Not a bad little representation, but in fairness, as I say, you can always trim off those legs, which I'll probably do, and put something in there to represent the monopod rather than the bipod scenario. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack on and paint these guys up, because these are going to be part of my new British Paratrooper battalion, my third and last British Paratrooper battalion, or glider troops, depending on what I'm trying to depict. So I will get on and do that this evening, and I'll be back to you in the second part of this video in a moment with the completely painted figures. So talk to you in a moment, guys. Alright guys, so we're returned with the completed or painted figures from the ESCI British Paratroops range. These guys turned out quite well. I've used the Airfix colours, or the colours recommended in the Airfix 132 set, because, well, for nostalgia purposes and to kind of keep it in kind of the classic vein, that's kind of what I was aiming to do. So basically they turned out fairly okay, even by my standards. no major issues there. It was just a question of painting up the camouflage smocks, the Denison smocks, then doing the webbing and obviously the pants and boots there. So after that it was kind of a fairly quick process. The weapons, just drop in a little bit of metal work on them, and the wood of course as well, and off you go. So yeah, so let's have a quick look at them there for you guys. So we'll just start at this side here. This guy, of course, as you can see, is the guy with his Lee Enfield raised. We'd look at him earlier on, I think, in the unpainted version. So there he is, fully painted. Looks quite well. The expression comes out quite well in the face, so I couldn't fault that guy, in fairness. Then you have the Sten Gunner there as well. Sten Gunner quite nice too, yeah. The little bit of scrim and stuff, camouflage in the helmet kind of helps as well. Brings out some nice detail as well in that, so that's quite cool. And you have the guy with the grenade there as well. Yeah, kind of one of my least favourite poses of the bunch. I find the ESCI grenade throwing poses a little bit weird, but you know, worked out okay. It's pretty alright. Can't really fault it that much. What else we got here? We got the guy with his Lee Enfield rifle there. Yeah, so he looks pretty slick. Again, paints up quite well. Couldn't really fault that. The netting on the helmet is quite nice as well, comes out clearly enough. I don't know if you can see that there, but it is nicely detailed. Backpack and all the rest of it comes out quite good too, so no complaints there as regards that. But that's really it. They come out quite well. As I said, the detail on them is nice enough. There's the remaining kind of guys there in the standing poses, more or less. Guy running with his SMLE. Let's have a look at the detail on the back of that. Didn't come out too bad. If we can get that to focus in on it. There we go. So yeah, happy enough all around. These guys, as I say, I've used them before in a different paint scheme, which I'll show in a moment, but I'm quite happy with them, in fairness. So there you have the guy running with the Sten, you have the officer guy, yeah, looks okay, and you have the guy kneeling down with his number 4 Lee Enfield. So all in all, happy enough with those chaps. Let's have a look and see what we have. Oh yeah, these are the two that were painted up in the colours recommended by Revel years ago. So yeah, they're okay too, in fairness, but just as a little comparison's sake, there is their compatriot in the Airfix colours. So it isn't a huge difference, in fairness. I mean, they'll match in fairly well. As I say, I have a kind of a battalion for rapid fire purposes done in the Revell recommended colours, and I have 2 other battalions now in Airfix recommended colours, which I kind of prefer. I think the Revell ones are a little bit off. They look a little bit more, I don't know, a bit more like the SS or something in those jackets. But so it was a Bren Gunner and a Sten Gunner from years ago, and there's the Sten Gunner there that we just did the other night. Now, just blowing a little bit of dust off a guy here. Here we have the lying down or prone chap from the ESCI range, but I've also incorporated him into the 2-inch mortar from Italeri. You might have seen that video I did on that a little bit back. Basically just to kind of have a crew for the 2-inch. Now a little bit of flock flying around there because I have to give them a little touch of hairspray. I'm just waiting for it to dry fully. So basically I just trimmed out the rifle and dropped in the ammo case, as you can see there. Whoops, the ammo case, which is from the ESCI Red Devil set, British Paratroopers, whatever it's called, the kind of self-assembly set. That's what the case is from there. So that is where that came from. Now, what else is there? There's a prone rifleman, a prone Bren Gunner, and there's a Piat. Now, the rifleman, slightly awkward pose. I have to do a little bit of lock on the edge of those bases there, as you can see. But I just bring the Piat over here, maybe just for a better shot. So yeah, not bad. In fairness, the Piat is one of the ones I did about 20 years ago. I didn't utilise the unpainted one that I showed you in the start of this video, basically because I already had Piat options for the battalion I was putting together, so I decided I wouldn't. The rifleman, not the worst, in fairness. It's a bit of an awkward pose, but it's okay. And the Bren Gunner there, a little bit of detail lost there where the stock meets the helmet and that, but paints up okay, so can't really fault him that much. They're alright, in fairness. I don't really like using an awful lot of prone figures when I'm wargaming anyway, to be perfectly honest. I kind of prefer the more standing and kneeling orientated kind of figures. I just think it looks a bit better on the table myself, but that's just my own opinion. So that's it, guys. That is the ESCI 172 release from the early 80s in the British Paratroopers. That's the kind of final British Paratrooper video of my little series I've been doing on those. Doing a series on Fallschirmjäger fairly soon, just waiting to find a few various bits and pieces I've dragged out of the attic and what have you. So there's several sets going to be utilised for that project, and a couple of other bits and pieces coming up fairly soon. So if you'd be so kind as to like and subscribe, if you've managed to get this far into the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. So you have my many thanks and my appreciation. So if you guys would like and subscribe, that'd be great, and we'll see you again with another video in the future. All the best, take care.